news.
Tonight, after recent footage of this accident, many are asking if it's time to take scooters away from the elderly. Tonight, why Trump's $14 million blue pool is already turning green, and why Trump always wanted it green. Tonight, hobby horsing controversy, with attendees outraged saying, "I was here to check out younger women. What the fuck is this shit?" With some saying this is the rare sport where men don't have the edge, as women are better at doing stupid shit. Tonight, the EU is declaring Boston a bunch of queers. Look, we totally outdrank them. With Boston rebutting that soccer is boring and a very stupid sport. And that's why fans have to drink so much to enjoy it and waste most of the game singing stupid chants. Tonight, for those planning summer travel, we explore how likely you are to die on your vacation. With recent upticks of people not being attached to bungee cords and tossed off of bridges. And other reporting of an uptick of sexual assault in the Bahamas. We look at vacation options where you can still take IG photos of you looking adventurous while remaining totally safe. We go to our field reporter with more. I'm out here in the sunny Bahamas. I just went jet skiing and nobody grabbed my butt. Then I went bungee jumping, and let me tell you, I actually think my neck feels better. Next, I'm going to try parasailing. Oh no, they snapped the cord! I think I'm headed to space! All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast, live for free on my website, robbernsteincomedy.com, where I will take comments during the show. And maybe we'll return to YouTube and other places at some point. But listen, you know, we got a war to break down, but I'm not going to start with the war talk because I'm completely bored of it. And we're going to start covering that at the end of the show because we're just living in too many Donald Trump circles going round and round. We got a deal, an apparent memorandum of understanding, which is a new thing that I guess instead of treaties you can use at the end of the war, not resolve anything, make things work, come back to the same place, and still have people say that you should be celebrated for it. We're going to get to all of that later. Donald Trump saying, hey, it's only a memorandum of understanding. I know that we made a big stink of digitally signing it and then signing it, but I can tear this thing up and go right back to bombing them. But this thing's totally over. We're going to get into that later because we're going to start the show with some good old school nonsense talk because I'm bored of this war. I'm bored of talking about it. I guess hopefully it's over. We're going to find out. Worst deal ever. I made it myself. I did it. We're going to get to all that later. Let's start with this. And, you know, usually I have moved a lot of the nonsense and travel talk to the paywall thing. Not doing that this week. The war's annoying me too much. Maybe over the weekend. Anyways, why don't I just start talking about the things I wanted to talk about? And I want to talk about this new epidemic of employees that just stare at you. Because I had a friend who had told me about this months ago, and I was like, you know, I haven't had this experience. But usually, you know, you're annoyed because every business in this country absolutely stinks. Nobody offers any customer service. They're usually constantly ripping you off. They're making you sign documents that they can screw you over. And you're always on edge. And you got to realize that it's never the person behind the counter's fault. They're just working some shitty job that they don't want to work. And the only way that anyone's ever going to be helpful is if you walk over with a big old phony smile on your face and you're nice to that person, and then maybe they'll be nice back. That used to be the way it worked in the world. And then sometimes that person would turn out to be an absolute shithead and you wouldn't get your way. And then maybe you would give them a hard time. But if you walked over and the first thing out of your mouth was giving them a hard time, you were not going to be making your life any easier. It was a little bit like I was a bad student, and there were some classes where you could be funny with the teachers in my high school, particularly the history classes. You can make fun of the teachers to your face. It was kind of the culture. And so, you know, there were opportunities, but I was more of a doodle, stare out the window, take 17 bathroom breaks, because I realized that I didn't really want to study and do my homework. I wasn't going to suck up to the teacher, but I wasn't that confident in my intelligence and my desire to sit down and study that I was like, at the end of the semester, the guy's got to give me a grade. I don't exactly want to be on his bad side. I wasn't bringing in apples. I wasn't kissing anyone's ass, but I was not the snotty kid who was giving teachers a hard time. I appreciated those kids constantly getting thrown out of class, just being a shithead. But I wasn't that kid, because at the end of the semester, you got to get yourself a grade. Why do you want to be pissing off the person who's giving you a grade? And it's the same thing with the person working the counter, customer service. You got to get something out of them. It doesn't help to be an asshole. They're never going to take your side. You know, you can get all worked up at them. It's not going to help. And so you walk over to the counter with a nice, friendly, hey, how's it going? And the new thing is they just stare at you. And what am I supposed to do? Stare back? Are we supposed to have an awkward off? Are we supposed to start off with, I just walk over and I stare at you, and now we're playing a waiting game until you go, hey, how can I help you? Is that like a new leverage play that whoever was friendly first loses? Is there some new respect system that I am not familiar with in the way that customer service is operating, that if you walk over nice and friendly now, they're like, oh, I can dick this guy over. He's trying to court favor. I see what this guy's doing. Is this the new system? You got to walk over and just stare, and the first to speak loses? It's like closing deals and sales. Once you put out the offer, you got to shut the hell up. Now, when you walk over to the customer service counter, you just have to stare at them until they engage with you. Are those the new rules? And the first time it happened to me was at a coffee place. And I guess my maneuver is then you just go over the top friendly so you can highlight the fact that they're being a dickhead, and then they got no choice but to, just be somewhat of a person. The first time it happened, though, was like with some 22-year-old kid, and I was like, oh, I guess that's the way that the young kids are doing it these days. And I kind of was like, you know what? That's pretty funny. It's a funny way to approach your job, to just sit there and stare at people while you're working behind the counter. I mean, I would think it kind of dampens your own soul that you're sitting there pissed off all day, but it's a little bit funny. But then I had in Minnesota, and I forgot, Tim Walz, I guess he just ruined all of Minnesota. It's the only Delta airport that I fly into that when you show up, your bags just aren't there. And not only are your bags not there, they have the little signs around letting you know that the board is inaccurate. And so if they're telling you that your flight came in and your bag is there, your bag's actually not going to be there. And eventually I did find my bag because, my ADD came in handy, that I decided to wander away from the carousel that it was displayed that my bag wasn't going to come into. And then I just saw my bag going around and I was like, oh, I guess, yeah, the boards are wrong. I thought the boards were just, the information they'd given me was that the boards were just off, that they might be telling you that your bag was here and it wasn't yet here, not that the boards were completely wrong and it's a massive airport and they would just be telling you the wrong thing so you could spend all day walking all the carousels and finding your bag. And so in this situation, Delta's clearly in the wrong. And you would think that the person working the counter, as they have to deal with this all day, are probably going to be somewhat friendly about it because they know that they're in the wrong. And it was like a 52-year-old lady walked over. Hey, how's it going? Just stared at me. I just stood there and wait, and then finally went, "Can I help you?" And then I was just taken aback. I was like, I'm supposed to be the mad one right now. Well, what is this? The reverse psychology you're working on me, that you're going to pretend like you guys are the ones messing up. You're supposed to be the friendly person because your company's messing up. I don't even know how I'm supposed to play my part anymore. I'm 38 years old. I thought I knew the system for society, and this new system, I am not. I guess this is what old people complain about. You get to be an age, and the world operated one way your whole life, and then you show up, and people play different cards, and you're like, I don't know how this game works anymore. And I don't know who to blame here. Is it that we never prosecuted Fauci and we cleansed the country of what happened with COVID? Is that what's happening here? Everyone gave up post-COVID. No one ever really came back to work. And so, you're still just watching people who are corpses of human beings, and they don't want to be there. They know that everyone else has a work from home job or just isn't working or somehow managed to grift the government for a paycheck or is just living at home and gave up. And so they're like, I'll show up, but I'm giving up too. Or is it like the new Donald Trump culture where everything's got to be a power play, and they're playing some sort of a confidence game of, I'm too good to help. I know I have this exact job where I'm hired to help you, but I'm too good for this. And so they are mind fucking you into walking over and then I didn't even want your help. You look like you're bothered behind this counter. Is there someone? No, there's no one I can talk. I get that. It seems to me like you seem to be playing the angry one in this relationship right now. So I'll let you do it. I mean, what are the rules now? Are you supposed to just mean mug him back? Just have that awkward stare off? I don't know. It's a new thing. All right. And then before I move on, I do want to take a moment to just trash Seamless. You know, the travel gripes, they're coming at you. The Minnesota Porch tour was absolutely incredible. Thank you for everyone that came out. I feel like I probably made my last run of tweaks that I had to make to the FBI presentation, but it is smooth sailing. Like I fixed all the jokes that weren't working. I pulled out some of the stuff that was a little bit too wordy, and I feel like it's a great hybrid of funny and informative. And I feel like I nailed it. At the moment, you never know with comedy. It's fun. It's fun that you put things together. You got bits you're really excited about. They're killing, and then they die on you. I really hope it doesn't happen with this presentation because I plan on doing it for the full Porch tour and then filming and putting it out. And I do think it's an important topic, and we'll get into the UFC thing in a second, see if it fits the theme. I think it's too early to tell. But I left that Porch tour, and I was starving. It was late at night, staying by the airport. There's nothing open. I was like, you know what? I never do delivery. Maybe, why don't I try delivery? My problem with delivery is once I'm starving, I'd rather be in motion acquiring the food than sitting around waiting on the food. Waiting on the food is more aggravating to me than being in motion and acquiring it. I understand that doesn't make sense. It's not, and then also just the fees, the this, the that, you know, it just, I'm not actually that cheap of a person. But there are things that annoy me to pay for, and one of them is the tipping on top of the service fee, on top of the higher rates, and then the fact that it's annoying because you never know when it's showing up. But I thought to myself, you know what? The whole world stays home, doesn't work a job, orders delivery food. Maybe I have this wrong. And so there's one open place that looks decent enough, and then you got to do the whole thing where you're comparing. It's also like too much time spent comparing everything, trying to figure out your best option, trying to figure out who's ripping you off. That also becomes just too much work, where I'd rather just order and pick up, particularly if I know the place, or wander until I find. I like a nice wander. I like a good old wander around until you find a place that feels like it suits your vibe. I like that. But I was like, screw it, I'm ordering, and I order a burrito. I think it was the beef burrito. Pretty typical stuff. Mark that I want to know sour cream. Mark that I want to know cheese. I put in this order, and then instantly it comes back that it's not showing up for an hour and a half, and it's already midnight. And I'm like, I don't want to eat at 1:30 in the morning, so I instantly go to cancel this order. And there's no such option because they tell you, well, the restaurant's already working on your order. And then, of course, I get an email later that it's not showing up for another hour. And I'm like, all right, just charge me and don't bring it. And then, of course, I got woken up at 3 in the morning by the guy who's annoyed that I'm not waiting outside. And I even feel bad. I feel bad where I don't want to tell the guy, just throw it out. So I got to get out of the hotel bed, go outside, apologize that I was late getting there, even though I was pretty quick. I was pretty quick on the trigger. I was pretty quick from the time he called to the time I got outside. That guy was not waiting on me too long, but even so. And then you get up and you're like, I guess I'm up. Maybe I should try the burrito. I take a bite. I'm like, man, that's suspiciously delicious. And then I open it up and realize it's filled with sour cream. And then you can't fall back asleep. Now you're re-hungry because you haven't ate anything. You whetted your appetite and you can't eat the burrito, which there's no reason to be waking up at 3 in the morning to eat a burrito. I'm surprised they even do burrito deliveries at 3 in the morning. But as long as we're doing some good old-fashioned nonsense talk to waste everyone's time because I don't actually want to talk about the war yet, I am officially putting out a condemnation of Seamless, which, you know, not as bad as the airport services, but every business that wrongs me will be trashed on the Run Your Mouth podcast because it's all I can do. You know, we're all stuck in this world with these shitty corporations that are constantly taking advantage of us. And the best you can do is have a podcast that a couple people listen to and yell about it and hope that maybe that finds its way to the CEO, who then feels embarrassed and goes, you know what? Maybe I should actually offer the service that we charge people for. All right, guys, upcoming porches, which you can find at porchstore.com. There's a lot of them. I'm working on adding more. This past weekend, Minnesota Saturday night was incredible, and I was annoyed that I was just doing one night out on the road. I want to be doing 4-day weekends all the way through the end of the year. I want to polish all this stuff. I want to put out a great half hour of stand up, and I also want to put out the FBI presentation as two separate things. And I want to have all new material when I show up to Skankfest that's sharp and tight. And I'm loving being out there on the porch. And as much fun as I've had traveling with the openers, I'm kind of enjoying just going up solo and doing like an hour and 15 just right out the gate. I don't know. Listen, I'm having a blast at the moment, so please come out. Denver, I'm doing on Sunday. I got my buddy Kyle Ruff opening up for me. I'm not going to be doing much stand-up on that show because I'm opening up for Dave all weekend. I don't want to repeat stuff, so I'm basically just going to run right into the FBI presentation, which I think you guys are going to love. It's been absolutely killing. It's similar to the end-of-year stuff I put out in the past. The next weekend, I got Raleigh, Wilmington, and Myrtle Beach. If you live near Myrtle Beach, that's a free show sponsored by the Inlet Dispensary. You can find all that at porchtour.com, and I'm still looking to add shows. So if you're out there and you got a porch, you got a yard, you got a venue, you can hit me up, thefiretix.com, submit your information. If you don't hear from me right away, it just means I'm trying to match you to a route, or maybe it wasn't a fit. But we're piecing it together. I'm adding more dates, trying to get everything booked up basically through the end of November. All right, sorry. A couple more plugs, but these are important plugs because people, they show up to the porches, and some people sponsor the porches, and a lot of times I'm very impressed. It's a community feel. If you've never experienced Porch Tour, come hang out. It's not just a comedy show. We hang out late at night. We drink beers out on the lawn. Some people have been setting up little fires, which matches the theme. I appreciate it. But out in Pittsburgh, Jeff, I spoke to this guy Jeff for a bit, seemed like a real knowledgeable dude, and I got to dig in, but he's got his own podcast, the Consequential Actions podcast series. And it's really about all of the philosophical ideas that led to this failed democracy that we have, but the ideas of liberty, the things that got us to the Bill of Rights, and it's really the history of the philosophy of all these ideas that got us there. Everything I heard from him sounded fascinating. He also handed me a book, and I have to dig in. Minnesota was sponsored by drewbuilders.com. If you're out in Minnesota and you're looking for some good construction services, you know, that's family, people. People that porch together stay together. And then lastly, a buddy of mine put out a book, which is very similar to what I've been digging in on the FBI stuff. I have to give this a read. I haven't had a chance yet, but it's called Survival Over Service, and it's how institutions manufacture threats, change definitions, and reframe reality. You guys can find all of this in the episode description. All right, one more topic before we get into the latest on the supposed end of the Iran war and the brilliant victory of Donald Trump of spending a whole lot of money, creating a mess, and, returning us to a slightly worser place. And we'll get into it. But first, I want to talk about those UFC fights on Sunday because, I got home. I didn't have much to do. Got a workout in. I did some work on my, I re-listened to my shows on Saturday, and I was done, and I was happy to be able to sit down and watch a bunch of UFC fights. The card was absolutely incredible. All the fights were a good time. And I know that a lot of people of libertarian persuasions, they look at the bread and circuses nature of it and they go, this is the end of our country. This is revolting. This is disgusting. You know, this is supposed to be a private company. If you want to go purchase entertainment, go purchase entertainment. Donald Trump should not be celebrating his birthday by turning the White House into a spectacle, and especially with such a violent sport right out on the front lawn. And here's the thing. I agree with you. But if Donald Trump is going to be fun and it's going to be light corruption, I'm not going to get my panties all up in a bunch and not enjoy the light corruption. I'm not saying it's good or better or necessary or it's better for the country. It fixes the country. It heals the country. Although having a UFC fighter stand on the White House lawn and call out Big Mike for being a man was absolutely hilarious. But listen, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we'll save our outrage for the war, which we're going to get into. If you are interested in the corruption of what took place at the UFC events, here we go. This is the AI list of all the conflicts of interest that did exist at that event. Firstly is the fighter bonuses were paid out in USD1, which is the coin that the Trump's family World Liberty Financial owns. There were also multiple ad reads for that. You had the fact that, Donald Trump invested in TKO Holdings prior to the event. You've got the fact that it was aired on Paramount, who's got, firstly, David Ellison. He probably, I would seemingly worked with the Donald Trump administration for purchasing TikTok. He's overseeing mergers with this company. Yeah, listen, you got some light corruption here. I'm not defending the light corruption. I'm just saying if Donald Trump's going to be fun, how upset are we going to get about over fun Donald Trump when he does things that align with your personal interests? There's a lot to be upset over, and you don't want to blow your outrage over the smaller stuff. And so with that, let's move on to our war reporting. Hopefully the war is over. I'm absolutely sick of the circle we are stuck in. And I think from moving forward, we'll probably just move war coverage to the end of the show and cover nonsense. I don't know, have other comics on. I still got to reach out to David Collum. I want to do an episode with that guy. But where we're at now is we have a memorandum of what is this? And firstly, are people even going to abide by memorandum? Is Donald Trump actually going to sign this thing? Seems like JD Vance is threatening, hey, if you guys really don't like, if you guys are going to bash us over this, we're not even going to do it then. And Donald Trump going, hey, if I don't like the terms in the thing that I've already signed and put together, then we'll just go back to bombing them. After all, it's only a memorandum. So we'll see if this thing even sticks. See if maybe they're trying to set up Iran so that they could turn around and go, we gave them the most favorable deal. I was going to fix their entire country, and then they still went back and did things, and so now I got no choice but to bomb them. It seems to me, though, that Donald Trump is looking to walk away from this and declare victory, and it's pretty remarkable with the terms that we're walking away with that Donald Trump will be declaring victory. And before I trash this, because I know that there's some of you out there that feel like, hey, listen, Donald Trump walking away from this war is the best possible outcome. So why criticize him for it? And why ramp up pressure that if everyone's criticizing him for a bad deal, then maybe he'll go back to the war? Why not just take the victory, the fact that he's actually walking away? And even though he made a mess, he's making the best available to decision for him right now. So why criticize him now as he's doing the right thing? I think I saw a fair amount of that flavor in the comments. Maybe I'm not representing that point of view in the best possible way, but I think that there's a lot of people who feel like we needed to end this war. It could only get worse. And so at least he's ending it now. Why don't we at least wait till he totally ends it and then not criticize him? And listen, I'm just going to be honest about what took place. I'm not going to live outside of reality. And being constantly lied to doesn't bother you? How is it not better to call it out and create consequences that we gambled on a war and ended in a worse place? I mean, the entire illusion of government is that they represent you and they work in your interest, and that this in most common sense making the best decisions. And in this decision, he made a horrible one, lied to us for months and pretend, oh, the straits will reopen itself. They're totally obliterated. I won't even talk to them until they admit their Navy's totally gone. We totally won this war. We're only sticking around to win even more. Obama made the worst deal in human history when he gave them $1.7 trillion of their own money back. Billion. I'm giving them back $20 billion up front. I mean, you want to create as much consequences as possible for when they gamble and flirt with wars. Donald Trump got all juiced up and excited after that Venezuela action that he took, and he thought, hey, I'm on a hot hand. We could do targeted strikes. We don't have to make quagmires out of wars like these other idiots before me. I have more common sense. And he doesn't. This was an absolute disaster. And we should punish him as much as possible for the disaster that he made, so that in the future, other administrations don't even flirt with these little targeted strikes that they think are going to just change other regimes and walk away with victories, and that things won't escalate. I mean, this was that debate Dave did with the Indian guy. Man, I can't remember his name. But Donald Trump does warfare differently. Donald Trump can just do targeted strikes. He's not like the other ones who will get us into long-running quagmires. Well, look at how the targeted strikes are going. This is what the Republicans were flirting with, was lying to us that you could just do these little mini wars and exert your influence over the world. And now you've got a major failure here. Why should we take the time and pretend like this was a victory or that this was a good idea? What are we doing? Participation trophy president here, where we all got to sit around and pretend like Donald Trump did a good job here? I mean, this just goes back to the beginning of the administration of just play ball with him. What is that? How much of a child Donald Trump is? Listen, if Donald Trump completely 180s and goes, I made a mistake here listening to the Israelis. They had blackmail on me. Here's what they had. And I made a horrible mistake. And we're going to completely clean up government so that we don't have foreign influences like this. And I'm going to ensure that then you can go, wow, this man learned a lesson, and he's making a heroic U-turn, and he's putting himself on the line. And then you could go, wow, this man manned up, he stepped up, he grabbed his balls, and he did the right thing. But if you're going to create the mess that you created, and we're all supposed to stand around and pretend like this is better, I'm not playing that game. Not personally. You guys want participation trophy president. You want to just let him off the hook so that other people can flirt with these disasters and still think that our country can afford war or that it benefits us. You can go ahead. I don't see why we should be dishonest and play along with this president. That's my personal take at the moment. You never know when I change my mind. All right, but let's get into all of the questions that were left on the table and then the supposed document that has come out that seems to answer some of these questions as the administration denies some of the biggest elements of this. But first is, will the Strait of Hormuz be told after 60 days? I guess we'll still have to find out to that. Money returned to Iran up front. That was unclear. We're going to see, at least in the leaked form of the document, even though we've had leaked forms previously that turned out to not be true on the previous non-deals that never took place. But the supposed story is that money will be returned to Iran up front. With the way that Donald Trump criticized the JCPOA and the money that was being given over to Iran, I think that's going to be a hard one to justify. That in this case, Iran no longer has sanctions on it. They will be able to sell their oil. It's unclear what the status of the Straits is going to be. And you do not actually have a nuclear deal in place other than the same promise, hey, we're not trying to get a bomb. But now it's the Donald Trump standard, and he said you can believe them, so I guess we can believe them now. And they're getting even more money up front, but apparently that's better than the JCPOA. The JCPOA was a pathway to a bomb, and this money up front without a deal in place is a wall to a bomb. All right, we got war reparations coming from the Gulf countries, the supposedly $300 billion, as to whether or not, there's some sort of a backdoor of how that's actually U.S. money. We'll find out. Nuclear program we went to war over. That's going to be decided later. It seems like they will be allowed to enrich, which means that was the big thing at the beginning of the war of zero enrichment. The red line that Donald Trump made so that he couldn't possibly have an agreement with them. Now you've got the problem of whether or not we are finally breaking up with Israel. Something we could have done at the outset of this, a month in. The second that Iranian people did not rise up against their government, we could have gone, oh, Israel's wrong. Or at any point in time, we could have shifted narratives here from Iran is the absolute mortal enemy. Any money given to them will only be used on terrorism and destruction. They're going to annihilate the entire world. We're lucky that Israel's there holding these evil forces back. And I guess now we're finally flipping the story. And you guys want to celebrate Donald Trump for 6 months of this? You want to let him off the hook and celebrate what he could. I mean, go back the archive, a part of the problem and run your mouth of it's going to come down to if we want to break up with Israel. And we'll see if he's even doing it now, as this is just a memorandum of understanding that we're making a big stink out of signing, and Donald Trump is threatening to tear up because he doesn't know if he likes the terms, even though he's agreed to it and it's a perfect deal. Okay, let's continue. Can Iran enrich uranium? Unclear. Seems like they can. Was the regime change in Iran? I guess you can claim he killed the Ayatollah. The new people are even more reasonable after we severed their legs or whatever and bombed their face and killed their whole family. This is a more reasonable regime now, everybody. Will Iran trade without sanctions? It appears so. Trump will declare victory. Warhawks will get upset about it. I did ask in my little document here, how soon till Trump is called anti-Semitic? My guess is a few weeks. Now, here's a big one. Is Iran actually more reasonable after we went through with this? After Iran won, displayed its might, and now gets countless resources, are they actually more trustworthy, or have we made them more dangerous? I was saying that everything Donald Trump was doing was only going to make it more likely for them to get a nuclear bomb, and that this was the wrong approach. And now our best option is walking away, but you do have to wonder, are they magically more reasonable now after everything that happened? I'm all for, hey, let's create economic consequences by trading with each other. And then if we don't get along, everyone loses. There's a mutually assured destruction and a benefit of just getting along. And I prefer that mechanism. And I think that for the most part, the kings and leaders and rulers above us pretend like there's more friction than there actually has to be, and that people can get along and that we can have freedom. And so, I'm all for this experiment and changing gears and not pretending like Iran is a mortal enemy, which is seemingly just pure Israeli propaganda. And it would be nice if we turn out to just get along with Iran, and we'll find out if that's true. But on the same note, those of you that are just celebrating Donald Trump because you want to see this go through, do you really feel like after all the actions we've taken in the last 6 months, it's not an Iranian incentive to continue to invest in, you can call it their offense or defensive postures, just in case the next administration falls prey to Israeli propaganda or Donald Trump changes his mind? And then just because I imagine that Donald Trump couldn't just be so stupid that he wanted to go through with this and that he continuously was supporting Israel the entire time. It must be that they had something on him, or that he was wheeling and dealing with donors. And now that he is seemingly actually going through with the breakup on Israel, it will be interesting to see if some of the information, if they had something on him, or if it was just purely Donald Trump stupidity. Remains to be seen. All right, so this is the later part of the leak deal. I don't think we want to read all this. It's a lot, but we can read some of this. Firstly, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. So while America, it says, hey, other people can just invest in it, at least the language here is that America will be ensuring that the neighboring Gulf countries will be sending that amount of money over to Iran as war reparations. All right, the United States commits to ending on a schedule to be agreed upon as the Fartle Agreement all types of sanctions currently facing the Islamic Republic of Iran. JCPOA, I mean, if you thought Iran was a mortal enemy that needed to be contained, JCPOA was only under $2 billion up front, and they remained under sanctions with a crippling economy. Now they're just a global power and they get to sell their oil. The Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates it will never produce nuclear weapons. I guess we believe them on that now. We couldn't believe it under the JCPOA and when they were being inspected and when a deal was in place, but now we can believe it that when they say they're not going to get a nuclear weapon, they're not getting a nuclear weapon. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States agree that pending a final agreement, they will maintain the status quo. Iran will maintain the status quo on its nuclear program, and the United States will not impose new sanctions on Iran or strengthen its forces in the region. That seems to suggest that they're allowed to, I guess, enrich. I'm going to assume it's not up to 60%, although I guess you could argue that's the status quo, or perhaps the status quo is it's totally obliterated. They're not enriching. I already ruined everything. They can't go back to it. I guess that remains to be determined, but I'm going to guess that they're allowed to have their civilian nuclear program now. And because of Donald Trump's actions, we can just trust them. The United States undertakes that immediately after the signing of this memorandum of understanding and until the date of lifting of sanctions, the United States Treasury Department will issue waivers for exports of Iranian crude oil. All right, we already covered that they're allowed to sell their oil now. The United States undertakes that in light of the progress of negotiations toward a final agreement, frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran will be released and made fully available, which sounds like they're getting all of their seized money back. And I'm sure they're going to say it's not a single American dollar, which is true. It's seized money. It's also the same thing that Obama gave back to them. And so all of your language criticizing Obama seems like now it's okay because it's you. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States agree that an implementation mechanism will be established to oversee the successful implementation of and future commitments to the final agreement. I mean, that's the most Monty Python line of all time, that there's an agreement of an implementation mechanism will be established to oversee the successful implementation. All right, I guess we're at a done deal here, everybody. Following the signing of this memorandum of understanding and upon receipt of assurances regarding the commencement of implementations, all right, I think that's enough of that. Now, what's incredible to me is that Donald Trump is still out here selling you that the JCPOA was an easy, beautiful, smooth road to a nuclear weapon, which Iran would have had 6 years ago and would have long used before now. But now, his new plan of giving them the cash up front with the deal not worked out and their ability to sell oil without sanctions is a wall to nuclear weapon. And I guess Iran has learned its lesson from being bombed. And the lesson is not make sure that you have the resources to protect yourself, and that it's a costly mistake to try and take military action against them. Now we've got Mark Levin, which, at least these people are dead wrong. And this is the political capital that Donald Trump is losing, and that he aligned with these people for 6 months or 3 months, 4 months. And now they are all completely pissed off at him because he's not willing to go through with the ground invasion that the country has no interest in, and was not sold on the fact that, Iran was an existential threat. And apparently Donald Trump agrees that Iran is not an existential threat. But, you got to respect the honesty that they're still sticking with this. Unlike the people out there saying, don't criticize Donald Trump. He's doing the best thing he can after the mess that he created. And so let's all give him a participation trophy and play along like this was a good idea. All right. Now, this is from the Wall Street Journal. There's a couple things that I want to read from here. Let's start with this. I think this is from 2 separate articles. First one, allowing Iran to export oil, it concedes a key point of U.S. leverage, but on the White House felt it probably had to give up to open the strait, said Farzan Nadimi, an Iran-focused senior fellow with the Washington Institute, a U.S.-based think tank. The White House thinks that these kind of sweeteners are required to make Iran make concessions, and otherwise it would be very difficult to make Iran continue negotiations. So it sounds like we lost, and we so want to get out of this mess that we're willing to even allow them to sell oil now and remove the sanctions infrastructure, putting Iran in a better place. All right, this is a different Wall Street Journal article. Instead, the Iranian regime has survived and consolidated under new and perhaps even more radical commanders. New regime, easier to get along with. It has also gained a new instrument with the worldwide consequences through its control of the Strait of Hormuz, while the war has led to unprecedented U.S. restrictions on the behavior of Israel's military. Iran is leaving this war with a sense of euphoria. They are managing the Strait of Hormuz. Nobody was able to force them back down militarily, said Mayor just something. As an Iran expert at Israel's Reichman University, he predicted Iran will now see the Persian Gulf's oil-rich monarchies as its own sphere of influence. Meanwhile, the war, which consumed a large part of U.S. precision munitions and inflicted damage on key U.S. military facilities in the region, has also exposed the limits of U.S. military power. Everybody, celebrate the win, huh? All right, one last line. Oh, I guess I wanted to read this whole thing. It feels like a lot to read. All right, let's just do it. If I highlighted the whole thing, I must have thought it was worthwhile when I highlighted it. Or we'll find out that I wasn't. When it comes to nuclear negotiations, we are back at the pre-war stage, but with U.S. leverage removed, said Daniel Thafer, director of the Gulf International Forum think tank. Pandora's box has already been opened. Everything has been tested, and Iran feels it doesn't have much more to lose or to fear. The worst has already happened from the Iranian perspective, and they have survived it. Ever since former President Barack Obama tried to negotiate with Iran more than a decade ago, the credible threat of U.S. military force was indispensable for any progress, said Daniel Shapiro, who served as a deputy assistant under the defense in the Biden administration. This was what I was saying of at the beginning of the war, when they were afraid of U.S. violence, you actually had a stronger hand. I was talking about this on a part of the problem, unlike Pete Hegseth, who's trying to argue that what we've done here was us now negotiating from a place of strength. It seems like the threat of our strength was actually a stronger position than showcasing the fact that it's not all that strong. Now we're going into the nuclear talks, with Iran having already proven that it could take the United States and Israel's best punch, survive, and land some very effective counterstrikes, and posing global economic chaos and economic and political harm to President Trump in the United States, said Shapiro, currently a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Iranians will view with great skepticism that they will face a significant military threat if these talks are not progressing. Now, the Wall Street Journal's angle is that they're trying to push to continue the war. I still think walking away is the best and probably only real option. So, given the mess that Donald Trump created, this is probably the right move. And hopefully Iran realizes, oh, wow, if I can just sell my oil, we're much better off over here. Hopefully in America, we stop talking about how they're the largest state sponsors of terrorism in the region. They're just trying to get a bomb. They're trying to kill everybody. And maybe we more look at it that they're trying to defend themselves against Israel, who is, looking to get the U.S. into fights and destroy them. And maybe everyone can just get along. But you do have to wonder if Donald Trump pushed this into a much worse place where Iran actually becomes what we feared, which hopefully it will not. All right, so let's watch some of the clips from Donald Trump, and we'll start with this one. This was, I think, from today.
Is the text of the agreement now final, or are you still?
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding, and if I don't.
There you go. So for all the talk we just did, and after repeatedly telling us that we have a deal, the deal is done, and not being done, and then this big show of the signing, Donald Trump, in his own words, I guess this is not final. Hey, it's just called a memo. I don't know why you guys are making such a big deal out of the thing. It's a memo.
I don't like it. We'll go back to shooting at him.
Now, how could you not like it? I thought you put this together. Why is this a deal that you don't like? Were you waiting for the public response? Why? You put together this deal. If you put together the deal, why is there something in this thing that you don't like? Are you not familiar with the terms of the thing you've already signed?
Dropping bombs on their head. If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head. Okay? Because they misbehaved for
We'll go get that $300 billion back. I'll get back all the money.
47 years. All right? But nobody could have made this deal. I mean,
the deal that I don't like, nobody else could have made it.
JCPOA done by Obama, he handed him $1.7 billion in cash, gave him
I'm giving them $20 billion, but not in cash. Big difference. Everyone knows the difference.
hundreds of millions of dollars,
Assuming that last document is even credible, or that Donald Trump doesn't change his mind on Friday and go back on the signing and then go, yeah, it was just a memo anyways. Memos don't mean anything. This isn't a final peace treaty.
Gave him billions and billions of dollars, but he gave him $1.7 billion in.
This is what you guys want to LARP with and not criticize. Just get on board. Hey, it's the best possible option. Don't you want to push for not the most annoying administration ever that won't give you the information, changes its mind every 30 seconds and lies through its teeth? Why would you accept this as the general protocol from our government?
Cash, green cash from banks into a Boeing 757.
All right, well, let's watch another clip. And like I said, I just find this stuff so annoying that I think we're going to go back to nonsense news for a while and cover this at the end of the show.
I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this...
Well, you could have not started the war. You could have done that.
Does is it allows the ships to go.
Based on the earlier decisions that I already made, I get it. I'm now in a situation where I can't not be criticized because I already made the biggest mistakes. It's like a financial advisor already lost all your money and it already happened. And so, yeah, you're criticizing the new. It's like, well, whatever I did, you're already bankrupt. So, yeah, you're going to be upset. Yeah, that's the point. You're already fucked up.
If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about 500, 600, 700 million.
I thought the straits were open. I thought we totally controlled the straits. I thought you were getting boats out. And this is interesting of what kind of economic consequences are already coming our way because of the duration of the war. I guess how much did fertilizer prices go up? I don't know the answers to this, or to what extent countries have been drawing down their stockpiles on oil. And so now as they replenish it, I guess you could potentially have more bidding up of the oil, or more consumption of the oil. I don't know. I'm not sure how quickly, I guess, oil prices come down now that the straits are open, or if some of the chaos hasn't, or duration of time that it was closed has not, I guess, quite been priced in.
$1 a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why
I thought the rest of the world would just buy oil from us and natural gas from us, and the United States was in a perfectly fine position, and that this wasn't a problem for us. It was just a problem for other people.
the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out, and there'll be a
Where was all this information 2 months ago, a month ago? We're creating a bit of a problem here.
time when you wouldn't be able to get it, and you want to see bedlam. So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them, why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general. And
All right. And now JD Vance says Iran deal could be scrapped if there is an utter meltdown, which I think, I'm not sure if this quote is referring to if the Iranians don't comply and they think that they're still getting a nuclear bomb, or if he means that the country doesn't go, thank you so much, Donald Trump, for getting us out of this huge mess that you created and making Iran a superpower. If the country is not going to support the way that we got us out of this war, and you're not going to play along with us pretending like we're in a better place, then we'll just, are we being held hostage by the United States government? Is this a Dr. Evil moment of, I'll take us all back to war unless you guys all start thanking me right now and you want to play along that this was the best deal anyone's ever made? I'll send your kids over there right now. I'll do a full ground invasion. I will start doing a draft. I'll send you all over there myself. If you guys don't get on board, I'll go right back to war. Vice President J.D. Vance insisted that the Iran deal could be reversed if there is an utter meltdown over the terms, as the White House has pushed back on purported draft versions of the pact that have been leaked to the media. I don't understand. You guys signed an agreement and you're not sure what's in it? You think that wrong information has been leaked to the media. It's different than what you guys signed, and what the Iranians are going to go with the faked leaked version that's not signed. Okay. Vance was pressed about, and you guys don't want to criticize this. Vance was pressed about the Memorandum of Understanding, which critics have argued tilts in favor of the Islamic Republic. In an interview with Megyn Kelly on Tuesday, the conservative commentator pushed the Veep to confirm that the deal could be reversed if there is widespread concern. It's a done deal, but it can be reversed. On Tuesday, Israel's 12 channel reported, this later in the article, details of a slightly different 12-point agreement. Why is the administration itself not sure about what it signed or if it's a good deal? Notably, neither includes concrete promises regarding Iran's nuclear program, besides reiterate a pledge to never produce or obtain another weapon. But it's different, guys, because it's the Donald Trump standard, and now Donald Trump's saying we can believe them. The full details of the deal will be released at a signing ceremony in Switzerland on Friday. All right, that's enough of that. All right, let's plug a sponsor. And I got a couple people in the chat. Hi. Yo. Hi. All right. Sheath.com, everybody. They got a big Father's Day sale coming around. Typically speaking, they let you stack promo codes, so this is a great time to stock up. You throw in the RYM, and you do that on top of the Father's Day sale. And you know what? Maybe you can show up. You could probably still get an order in and let your dad know, hey, listen, you're an old man. You've got droopy, sweaty balls, and that's why I got you an incredible gift. This is underwear that's going to hold up depending on how old they are till they die. I still have my original pairs from 6 years ago. Have yet to tear a pair. Have yet to get a hole in a pair. These are quality pairs. I don't want to make a promise here that it's going to last, 25 years if you got a 6-year-old dad. I haven't lived 25 years with my Sheath yet. I've lived 6 years, and they're still going. But the point I'm trying to make is your dad's got sweaty, old, droopy nuts, and you're aware of Sheath.com. He's probably still a boomer, supports this word, isn't listening to the Run Your Mouth podcast. And so this is your chance to save your dad's balls and get him a nice Father's Day gift. And what's great is if you use the promo code RYM, you're typically able to stack promo codes. Also, don't want to engage in false advertising just in case you can't. But either way, they're a value buy even at regular prices. These underwear hold up. They are incredibly comfortable. They are absolutely necessary in the hot, sweaty summer months. I cannot recommend Sheath.com more. Been a loyal sponsor of the Run Your Mouth podcast, so go try and stack some promo codes and stock up, and maybe get a couple pairs for your dad. All right. We'll cover a couple more topics. We'll start with this. There was a New York Times article last week, which I basically just decided to ignore because I'm like, how much liberal media am I going to read? And am I suddenly just going to be believing everything from these people? And it was basically an article talking about how J.D. Vance was very aware of and concerned with the Epstein situation, and seemed to buy into the worst of the conspiracies with Epstein, but also thought that the administration really had to get ahead of it because he was trying to clean up the mess, which I think really showcases who J.D. Vance is, of even if he knows things and would like to do the right thing, he's also willing to just do his job as the vice president, as he hopes to become president. And I think that's why you're seeing him out here trying to sell this Iran deal, which makes absolutely no sense. All right, in the conspiracy space, I did not bother to read into this. Gabbard drops receipts detailing U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. The interesting variable about this is this, once again, conspiracy being confirmed when nobody cares and it doesn't matter anymore. I guess it's a nice little check in the box of the people that were talking about this years ago and were being completely condemned as that's conspiracy. Can now walk away with the brownie points of having been right. It's also years afterwards. Nobody cares about this anymore, and go ahead and prosecute Fauci, investigate all the companies that locked us down for COVID, find some people accountable. This is not the most interesting side of the COVID storyline, but it's another example of absolute freak out over supposed conspiracy that gets confirmed when it's too late to matter. And, you can check your box that you were right about the thing at the time, but doesn't actually matter unless they're going to go after people. All right. This is an article from Zero Hedge with, I don't really follow European news outside of, I guess, when Ukraine and Russia 2 years ago, when they were telling us that we just have to stand up to Ukraine. And I was advocating for this is just going to get more people killed. You guys are lying to us. Putin's not trying to take over all of Europe. You guys caused this mess with saying we're going to take Ukraine into NATO, spooking them that they're going to have U.S. bombs right on their border. Clearly, they don't want that. And we could have had peace over there. And you guys created a big old mess. And, pretending like we're winning a war for years while we're not winning a war, so that we have to spend more American money over there and get Ukrainians killed does not sound like a moral or good or winning strategy. Outside of that, I'm not paying that much attention to what's going on over in Europe. From what I understand, there's a lot of censorship if you're criticizing Israel, and they're constantly importing the third world and letting them walk around with swords. And then you see random crazy stories about I think it was like in Sweden, where they created some co-ed boarding or whatever, and then the illegal immigrants were raping everybody, and then they tried to cover it up. You see crazy stories out of Europe. Luckily, I don't live over there. But you get spooked. You're like, if there's this much censorship and shenanigans going on over there, are they going to bring it over here? Are you guys going to shut down our nuclear power plants, make us more reliant on Russian energy? Europe, it's like the testing ground for stupid. And then over in our country, they always like, in Europe, they take a coffee break in the afternoon. Oh, the dignified Europeans. It's always like the suave thing of how wonderful Europe is. And I'm going to go visit Europe. And, and then you read the other side of these stories and you're like, I don't know. It seems to me like it's just a testing ground for stupid. But, I've seen scattered stories about, I guess, tech censorship out in England. And then you just get worried of, how normalized that stuff gets and whether or not it ends up over here. This article from Zero Hedge was essentially that, they want to make sure that no kids are able to send pictures to each other of them nude, and they're going to hold the tech companies responsible for it. And so essentially they're going to have to backdoor onto everyone's phone to monitor everything that's happening, because that's the only way to possibly implement this. And it just speaks to a couple things in government that, I constantly notice and I think are major problems. But the first one is you got another one where you're like, oh, do you not care about the kids? You don't care about kids? Well, I do care about kids. And I can understand, wanting to mitigate the amount of nudes that kids are sending to each other or sending to other people. But giving up everyone's phone and their ability to just freely communicate with other people without the government monitoring it is a little bit more important. Yo, so you don't care about kids. And it's always some bitchy safety claim. That's always what it is. I was at a wedding the other day. I was like living the Mitch Hedberg joke about fire exits. Great joke. You know, I was at a casino. Guy, I'm going to butcher this, but yeah, I'm at a casino. I'm also not going to do his voice. I was at a casino and I'm standing by the fire exit and the guy told me I had to move. I said, why do I have to move? He goes, you're blocking the fire exit. Well, anything that's with legs and will burn is not blocking a fire exit. The joke being that if there's a fire, you're going to fucking leave. And I was outside of open doors at a wedding. I was outside of the thing. And then you had some cunty staff member who just wants to be like, no one can stand, no one can, like, there's nothing going on. You're not in anyone's way, but just decided this is, I am the guard of these doors and I will control the sanctity of these doors and make sure that nobody stands here comfortably having a conversation. And that's the way it's always for people's safety, because it's hard to argue once you play the dumb safety card. And that's how they strip your freedom and make you compliant for rules that make no sense, because otherwise you don't care about grandma. You're looking to spread COVID around and kill your neighbor. You know, you got to go way down the Run Your Mouth archive for this, but I talked about it before, that the problem with society is that we mold it around the idiots, the assholes, and the complainers. It's a little bit like in kindergarten, where they took away snack time because some kid was complaining too much, or some kid opened up the bag of cookies and it got all over the place, or some asshole stole some, and then they go, all right, now no one gets any snack. And that's always the way it works, is that everyone gets punished on account of the idiots, the assholes, and the complainers. And it's the problem with the, like, just structure of government, is that we're constantly remolding ourselves. It's like all of these laws in the books that drive up costs. It's why every time you sign to get into a hotel, you got to sign these documents. It's why there's 90 pages of an agreement when you want a gym membership. It's because of idiots, assholes, and complainers. And there's got to be like a better way to just keep the river flowing and ignore the rocks, which are the idiots, assholes, and complainers. But instead, we remold our entire societal experience around these people. And one of the tools is the constant pretending like things are for safety purposes. It's on behalf of the kids. Bullshit. All right. Last topic for today's episode. Before we do, we'll plug our last sponsor for today, YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. Only place in the entire world. You get a full kilo of kratom for just $60. Now, I've been fascinated with the claims against the Southern Poverty Law Center. For those of you who have not followed this at all, essentially they're in trouble for fundraising of, hey, we're going to be stamping out anti-Semites, racists, Nazis, this, that, the other thing. And then they're taking some of that money and supposedly funding instigating incidents that make it look like there's more of that in the world so that they could further boost their fundraising of stamping out the problem that they're causing. And I've been fascinated by this because it's exactly what I think the FBI does. And in this case, they're talking about the use of criminal informants who are actually instigator of the events to create the television. And same thing that the FBI uses. And Jim Jordan's been on the case. And I was fascinated to know, are you also going to dig into the FBI's usage of criminal informants? Because I think the FBI, this is exactly my theory about the FBI, is that they use supposed criminal informants to actually manufacture events and then create news. And one of the advantages is raising their budgets as they stamp out the actual news stories that they're creating. And so as some of these stories took place under the Biden administration, where they were trying to pretend like there's this rising tide of domestic terrorism and that they got to censor the entire internet, I was curious to know if the Southern Poverty Law Center usage of FBI informants might expand to a conversation about the FBI's usage of the exact same thing, and that if perhaps Republicans would have an incentive, even if they don't want to get rid of the practice, to potentially go after the Biden administration for the way they used it in fabricating domestic terrorist storylines, such as the Gretchen Whitmer case. And so first we'll listen to Jim Jordan as he accuses the Southern Poverty Law Center. And then if you're getting a raging hard on for it, we're about to throw cold water on it, as I will show you guys another clip. Let's roll the first one first. And here, let's We're no longer talking about the war. That's why we got the $1 million studio. You can have the proper settings for each story.
Mr. Fair, did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor money to have field sources attend extremist rallies across the country?
Mr. Chairman,
None of this is a good look, but basically he defers to that's exactly what we're being accused of, and we're going to defend ourselves in court, but I'm not going to speak about it here. But the questions that Jim Jordan is asking are exactly in line with what I think the FBI is up to.
It's a simple question. Did you use your donor money for that purpose?
we used donor money
It's a yes or
to
no.
pay confidential informants to infiltrate extremist organizations.
Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor dollars to have field sources host extremist rallies throughout the country?
Not to my knowledge.
That's not what the indictment says. Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor dollars to have field sources grow existing chapters of extremist groups?
Mr. Chairman, as I
It's a
said
simple
earlier,
question, Mr. Fair. Did you use donor money for the purpose I just read? I'm reading straight from the superseding indictment.
and Mr. Chairman, the indictment will be managed and responded to by counsel in the criminal case that's
Well, you just
pending.
answered the
great
question from Mr. Raskin concerning the indictment. He asked you, did field sources send information to the FBI that help with things? You answered that question. I'm
That's a
asking,
matter of public knowledge.
That's in our public filing.
did the Southern Poverty
Chairman.
Law Center use donor money to have field sources create new chapters of extremist groups?
Again, Mr. Chairman,
Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor money to recruit new individuals into those extremist groups?
I assume you don't want me to answer since you're not giving me time to answer.
No, I'm giving you time to answer because that's a yes or did you use your donors' money for that purpose? Yes or no?
Again, those issues will be resolved in the pending allegations against the SPLC.
It seems to me if the answer is no, you could say no.
We have asserted that the allegations are false.
Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor money to have field sources make donations to extremist group leaders
We'll
and
listen to
purchase
one more of
materials
these.
for cross burnings? It's alleged in the indictment. Did it happen?
We've alleged that those allegations are false.
Did Southern Poverty Law Center use donor dollars to have field sources create racist paraphernalia that extremist groups sold at?
I'm going to fast forward a little bit, see if he just outlines more of the theory.
Again, all of the allegations that you are referring to, Chairman Jordan, will be
Rare Books Warehouses, Imagery Link, J&J Electronics, and Kelly's Marine. And I'm just want to know if that was the intermediate shell companies that you.
All right, so now we're going to move forward to my excitement of, oh, maybe they're going to bust this whole racket open of the way that informants are used to actually manufacture stories and not to observe on things that are taking place and then put an end to otherwise illegal behavior that would be transpiring. That's the way an informant should be used. Instead, they use informants to go provoke and actually create the news of these events. And the FBI does the same thing. And so I'm sitting over here wondering, wow, this is interesting that they're calling out exactly the FBI's toolbox as it's being used by a private company. And here's Jim Jordan on that topic. And like I said, throw some ice cold water on the boner because you're going to see not interested in the FBI storyline.
Yields back the gentlelady from Florida. Ms. Lee is recognized.
Thank you. I yield my time to the chairman.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Representative. Mr. Bangert, a government-paid informant and a law enforcement paid informant is different than a private sector paid informant. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, Ms. McCord said, oh, she went this long thing. I forget who was asking the question. Oh, this paid informants happens all the time. Doesn't happen in the private sector like that, right?
They're very different.
Yeah, very different. Now, for all we know, it could be the same people. I mean, maybe the government was paying the same people they're paying. I don't.
You mean maybe the FBI trained the SPLC on this racket, or someone left the FBI, went to the private sector and was like, I know a good scheme for profit?
No, maybe these guys were double dipping. That's a question I think worth exploring. But the idea that, oh, this is just fine, particularly when the private sector, the private entity doesn't tell their donors what they're doing. Would you agree with that? That didn't make that.
You mean like when the FBI manufactures terrorist storylines so they could get everyone all worked up and increase its budgets, pretend like they're protecting us?
That's not the same as the FBI paying an informant for valuable information or local law enforcement paying an informant. Different animals, right?
I think the indictment points out the discrepancy there.
Yeah.
All right, I've had enough of this. On that one, I wanted to talk about this at the top of the show, but the supposed news storyline of these individuals who are looking to target the UFC event with the drone strikes. As of now, there's no information about FBI criminal informants being used in the case, so I guess it remains to be seen. It did catch my eye that apparently, the FBI is treating it like there was a real drone strike threat, but at the same time, you got a kid that's living at home, and he's not slick enough to not just talk about this in front of his mom and then have his mom report in on it. You're both telling me that you had a serious, real threat here. I don't even know if the kids had the money or the ability to make drones with explosives to actually pull off the event. But the way it was portrayed initially in the newspaper is, look, there was going to be a serious terrorist attack if we didn't get involved here. Oh, it's actually a kid living at home who was talking about this in front of his mom. So my guess is it probably was not as real of a threat as it was portrayed to be. And it will be exciting to find out if there were also informants involved in the case, because then we might find out that some FBI people worked some dumb kids up into a frenzy, told them, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea, and then arrested them later. It certainly doesn't seem to be a matching storyline to serious terrorist threat averted thanks to our actions by dumb kids at home who weren't intelligent enough to not talk about this in front of their own parents. But, remains to be seen. It's still the beginning of that storyline. That is our episode. Back next week with a full new one, maybe a subscriber one before then. Porchtour.com. Please come hang out. Got a bunch of porches coming up. You can hit me with your porches, firetix.com. Thanks to everyone that sponsored. That's our episode.